Most believers pray for peace, but live in constant noise. They think their exhaustion is physical. They think they just need more sleep or better time management. But neuroscience reveals a completely different problem. Your body is not tired. Your nervous system is fragmented. Over 2,000 years ago, Jesus demonstrated the exact mechanical solution to this modern crisis. Long before brain coherence was studied in a lab, he utilized a strategy that frustrated crowds and unsettled kings: deliberate silence. In our last episode, we confronted something uncomfortable: the realization that your greatest enemy is not outside of you, but hidden inside the unconscious mind. We explored the shadow, the repressed impulses that silently shape your reality. But once you begin confronting that internal darkness, a dangerous new question appears. How do you stabilize your mind after that? Because awareness alone does not create clarity. If your mind remains chaotic, your perception will distort again. And this brings us to one of the most overlooked, yet mechanically perfect patterns in the life of Jesus. Jesus repeatedly withdrew into silence before major decisions, after intense encounters, before moments that fundamentally changed the direction of his ministry. He actively stepped away from the crowd. And there is one specific instruction he gave that reveals exactly why. He said, "When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen." Most people assume this was simply moral advice about being humble, a rule against praying for attention. But look at the sequence. Go into your room, close the door, remove the crowd, remove the noise, enter absolute silence. This was not just a spiritual ritual, it was a neurological strategy. Because the human nervous system cannot stabilize under constant stimulation. Silence is the required environment for the mind to reorganize itself. Most people believe their biggest problem is a lack of clarity. They assume they just need better ideas, stronger willpower, or more motivation. But neuroscience reveals something deeper. The human brain is a prediction machine. Every single second, it processes memories, assesses threats, calculates expectations, and manages emotional signals. Most of this massive processing happens completely beneath your conscious awareness, which means your mind is rarely quiet. Even when you are physically still, the brain continues simulating conversations, replaying past arguments, and anticipating future disasters. This constant state of prediction once served basic human survival. But in the modern world, it creates something lethal: internal noise. When too many signals compete inside the nervous system, the brain cannot maintain emotional coherence, and without coherence, your intention collapses. This is why you feel deeply inspired during a moment of reflection, only to completely lose that clarity just 2 hours later. The insight was real, but your nervous system could not hold the signal long enough to install it. Modern science has identified another force actively destroying your mental coherence: dopamine-driven stimulation. Dopamine is commonly misunderstood as the chemical of pleasure. It is not. It is the chemical of anticipation. It drives the brain to search, to refresh, to endlessly pursue the next stimulus. In the ancient world, this helped humans locate food and survive. In the modern environment, it keeps your mind in a state of perpetual hunger. Notifications, scrolling, rapid streams of fragmented information. Every artificial stimulus resets your brain's attention cycle. And when your attention constantly resets, your nervous system never stabilizes long enough to actually build anything. Biologists like Bruce Lipton describe belief systems as biological programs. But programs only install when the nervous system sustains a coherent emotional state. Constant stimulation prevents that stability. Instead of building new internal structure, your brain is continuously forced to reboot itself. You're attempting spiritual transformation while your nervous system remains fundamentally fragmented. Now, look again at the behavioral pattern of Jesus. Before choosing the 12 disciples, he withdrew into the mountains. Before major turning points, he stepped away from the crowds. After healing large groups of people, he disappeared into solitude. Over and over again, the exact same mechanical rhythm appears. Crowds, then withdrawal. Noise, then silence. Most religious interpretations call this prayer time. But psychologically, something far more precise is happening. Silence forcibly regulates the nervous system. When external input disappears, brain activity begins to synchronize. Regions of the brain that normally operate in chaos begin communicating efficiently. The prefrontal cortex regains absolute control over the emotional impulses of the amygdala. Perception sharpens. Reaction slows down. Neuroscientist Joe Dispenza calls this brain coherence. Ancient traditions called it stillness. Jesus practiced it as a lifestyle. Silence was not an escape from reality. Silence was preparation for clarity, and clarity changes the way reality is interpreted. A fragmented nervous system reacts. It reacts to criticism, it reacts to fear, it reacts to uncertainty, and reaction disperses your energy. But a regulated system behaves entirely differently. It observes first, it processes second, it responds third. This is exactly why the physical presence of Jesus unsettled powerful people. When accused by authorities, he often remained completely silent. When pressured by storms, he did not panic. His silence in those moments was not weakness, it was supreme regulation. A nervous system that does not leak energy through constant emotional reaction accumulates enormous influence. Because the person who cannot be easily triggered cannot be easily controlled. Authority is not produced by volume. Authority emerges from coherence. If silence stabilizes the mind, the next question's mechanical. How do you cultivate it in a world architected for constant stimulation? The first step is interruption. You must create a non-negotiable window each day where absolutely zero external input enters the mind. No phone, no audio, no conversation. At first, your mind will violently resist. Thoughts will accelerate. Buried emotions will surface. This is not a failure of the practice. It is exposure. You are finally seeing the noise. The second step is observation. Instead of forcing positive thoughts, simply observe the chaos that appears inside your mind. Notice the recurring worries, the repeated emotional loops, the fictitious stories your mind invents about the future. As Carl Jung observed, what becomes conscious loses its unconscious control over you. The third step is stabilization. Once the mind begins to quiet down, hold a single internal state with gentle attention, not with aggressive force, with steady resilience. Over time, your nervous system learns to remain coherent for longer periods. And when coherence stabilizes, your perception of reality begins to fundamentally change. And this leads us to something extraordinary. If internal coherence changes perception, and perception dictates behavior, then the internal coherent state of your mind may influence external reality far more than we are comfortable admitting. Jesus hinted at this terrifying mechanical truth in one of his most mysterious statements. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. For centuries, religion treated this as a poetic metaphor, but modern physics is beginning to uncover something strange about the fabric of reality. A phenomenon Albert Einstein once called spooky action at a distance, quantum entanglement. The mathematical possibility that systems separated in space remain intimately connected. And if that invisible connection exists, then the boundary between your inner reality and the outer world may be far thinner than you think. In the next episode, we will explore the physics behind the most misunderstood statement Jesus ever made. Because heaven and earth may not be separate systems. Welcome back to the Mechanics of Faith.